everybody. Welcome to number 38 in Rhino. I'm Shawn Drotar from Mile High Sports. That's our studio right back there. You may have seen it. You come in, host of Mile High Sports Today, recording that every single weekday. This is Ryan Blackburn, the head of our Denver Nuggets coverage over at Mile High Sports, the host of the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Ryan, we are out here at 38 prior to game 5 for the Nuggets and the Thunder. The series is tied 2-2, but after the way game 4 finished, it feels a little bit to Nuggets fans as if maybe they're behind.
Well, I mean, it's hard because every time Denver loses, like if they lose a clutch game, it's like once in a blue moon because they're so good in the clutch. They have been that way for the entirety of Jokic's career, for Murray's career. It's been fantastic to watch them in those moments, and they've had so many great moments, especially Aaron Gordon has had so many great moments in these playoffs. He has been truly tremendous. But Game 4 was a weird one. Game 4 started off pretty ugly, and it was unfortunate on Mother's Day, that matinee. Denver did not have enough rest heading into that one. They started off slow, had to fight their way back, and then ultimately ran out of gas, I think, once they got the lead. But Game 5, I do think that there is at least a world of possibility where they win this one, and then they can win it in 6 back here in Denver.
Well, obviously, when you're talking about the fatigue situation, fatigue is one of the things that is cumulative, right? So it's not as if it gets better over the season when you got 82 games and then you got playoff games after that. So for the Nuggets now, knowing that they had to play a longer first-round series against the Clippers, of course, and we know that this team with a thin bench does not have a lot that they can do to rest the starters. So this is something the Nuggets have had to fight through already and will continue to have to fight through. There really isn't a fix for this for the Nuggets. There's certain things you can scheme around. There's certain things you can work around. Fatigue, there's nothing they can do. The Nuggets just have to continue to find a way to power through.
Well, one of the best fixes is that Nikola Jokić plays like the best player in the world, the guy who we have come to expect to step up in these situations. He's had a pretty rough 3 games over the course of these past 2, 3,
By
and 4.
his standards, yes.
Because, his standards are through the moon. It is unbelievable. The degree to which, he had a little tough game, but the guards on a regular basis around the NBA can go 3 of 17, and everybody's like, it's just what happens. But when Jokić does it, everybody loses their minds. But
it's worth noting that Jokić, who is having a subpar series, no question about it. And it's a lot. We can go into the numbers. They're ugly, they're gory. But the truth of the matter is, keep in mind, this is still the guy that in points per game is still leading the Nuggets in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So the lift that Nikola Jokić has is so far above what, say, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has, for example. He just doesn't have quite as much help. He has to do a lot more. And that's not knocking down the Jamal Murrays and the Aaron Gordons of the world. It's just an understanding that this team is now entirely built around Nikola Jokić and what he does best. And so when he's not playing well, everything else starts to disassemble a little.
Well, it looked a little ugly. Whenever you score 87 points, people are going to ask questions. But Denver has usually won those games where it gets a little grimy, a little ugly. They've been able to dig it out. But I want to point out positively, their defense has been tremendous in this series. Just some stats for you. The starting lineup is a 97 net rating, or a defensive rating, in this series against the OKC Thunder.
That's
the best
far
team,
better than they have been in the regular season.
It's unbelievable, actually. It's crazy what they've been able to do. They know that they have to do it, though, and they've been able to dig deep. They've been able to find ways. Jokić, for the struggles that he's had on the offensive end, has been so good on the defensive end, and I kind of expect that to continue. This team has, they know the way that they're going to have to win this series. It's going to be close. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be on the edge of your seats. But just in general, I think that Denver has a shot if the game gets down to the wire again, because we know what Jokić and Murray can do in those situations.
Yeah, well, and Aaron Gordon.
And Aaron Gordon. Clearly Aaron Gordon.
Russell Westbrook as well. This team makes good decisions late by and large. And that, I think, was maybe a little bit why it was surprising to see the loss in Game 4, in which especially later in the game, it felt as if Oklahoma City kind of flipped that and out-executed the Nuggets.
I just think they missed shots, man. Honestly, I think Denver was tired. Okay. I don't think there was anything that OKC did in particular that really flummoxed them or anything like that.
Neither team shot well. Just a terrible.
Oh, yeah. When you score
from 3, both teams, neither team barely hit a third of their shots.
When you score 8 points in the first quarter, that's probably what's going on. It's going to be a little bit ugly. So I don't think that was on OKC, though. I really don't. Now, they are a tremendous defensive team. They're putting Denver into these situations. They're forcing them to work. But now Denver's had a little bit of extra time off. They don't have 36 hours in between an overtime game and a matinee game like they did from game 3 to game 4. They have just over 48 hours, and I think that that's going to make a difference. I really do.
Well, prior to today's show on Miley Sports Today, recorded in that studio there, I was talking with Danny Bailey, our producer right here on my left. And we talked about what the Thunder were doing to Jokić. And a lot of it is simply just taking advantage of depth.
Yeah.
Just throwing a fresh guy and a fresh guy and a fresh guy, sort of an old school Chuck Daly. This guy's worth 6 fouls. This guy's worth 6 fouls. Just go out there and don't let Jokić do what he wants to do.
He has struggled a little bit with the backup center for OKC, Jalen Williams, who, like, that's not a guy that he should struggle with. There's no doubt about it. Like, he has found a way to be okay against Isaiah Hartenstein, okay against Chet Holmgren, but against Jalen Williams, for whatever reason, he has struggled. Part of that is because Alex Caruso is out there. Lou Dort is often out there. A lot of great defensive wings and guards are out there just digging in, making things difficult. But Denver's others have to step up in those situations. The thing that you see in a lot of those cases is Denver's not making enough shots. Christian Brown needs to step up.
Yep.
Russell Westbrook needs to step up. Michael Porter Jr. needs to step up. He has obviously dealing with that shoulder injury, but it's not a great excuse for shooting 0 of 5 mostly on open jumpers.
Yeah, at a certain point, you have to look at it and say, if you are so hurt you can't help the team, you shouldn't play. But if you're out there and you're playing, then there is an expectation that you should be able to perform at least at a certain level. So he has to be better. But let's look a little bit about these turnovers. Jokić in this series has more turnovers than assists. Obviously not something he usually does.
Of course not.
We know that the Thunder are a long team. They play the passing lanes. They jump a lot. What is Jokić doing wrong in this series of those turnovers, and what can he do right tonight to turn it around?
So here's the thing. He actually did pretty well in game 4. I just think he was fatigued. I think he missed shots. He only committed two turnovers in that situation. He was making better decisions. But the thing that you have to do against OKC is your processing speed has to be so fast. It has to be so quick. But he is the guy that you would expect, processing speed out the wazoo. So I think that he's just tired, and I think that this is going to be an opportunity for him. He will be a little bit more rested in this one. He will process the game a little bit faster. And then on top of it, if guys are making shots, the OKC defense is just not going to be able to help as quickly. It's not going to be able to help as hard down when he's driving into the lane, when he's posting up, when he's doing the things he usually does. So I do think that we're in for a good Jokić game. That's my clear expectation.
And it wouldn't be a shock whenever the Nuggets run ends, and hopefully it's not in this series, if we find out a little bit later that Jokić on that right elbow where he's been wearing his sleeve has had some soreness there. We know he landed on it. We know it appears to be bothering him. When he's injured it before, it's affected his shot. We've seen that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's some of it, but again, you're not going to hear Jokić say anything about that.
No, you can't make any excuses. And I it's hard even with Michael Porter. Like, you can't make excuses.
No, I mean,
like, if you're out there,
you're dressed.
if you are available, like if somebody on OKC was going through the same thing, and I think that there are a couple of guys that are, then they wouldn't be making excuses either. So you can't as the Denver Nuggets squad. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit more of a negative vibe from you. I feel pretty positive about this game.
Well, I feel good about it too, because I think one thing I've seen in teams that Nikola Jokić has played multiple times, especially in back-to-back in playoffs, you can throw something at him that maybe he's not expecting, but he adjusts very quickly. You talked about the processing power. That's the kind of thing he's an expert at. And so, I think there's some of that. One of the things that you've seen, David Adelman talked about it, the Nuggets interim head coach, about the idea that if they're going to leave Nikola Jokić out there at the three-point line, well, he's just going to keep taking him. And we know he went 0 for 10 a couple of nights ago, but what you've seen is them decide to kind of pack the paint, make sure that Jokić can't get in there and deal from the inside out. So instead of working from the kickouts and all the other things that he can set up, now they have to do a couple different things. Jokić has to maybe work at the top of the key or even the three-point line, and then find a way to facilitate the offense that way. Now, he can do that, but that requires some of his teammates to do something a little different than they're expected to. Normally, you're not worried about cutting to the basket in the same way. You're not worried about driving. You're not worried about moving along the baseline in the same fashion when Nikola Jokić is down low. But when he's not, you can still do it, but it depends on the other four guys.
One of the factors that Denver's really struggled with is the OKC rim protection, whether it's Chet Holmgren down there, whether it's Isaiah Hartenstein down there, or whether it's just their guards and wings that are so capable, so good at bothering people when they're cutting to the lane. Denver hasn't finished well enough in the paint. They are struggling a lot of the time when they're being collapsed upon, and Jokić is often spacing. It's why he's taken a lot of threes in these cases. But Denver just has to hit some of those outside shots. If they're going to be open because the paint is being collapsed upon, then you have to make the threes. It's the easy kind of give and take between interior defense and perimeter defense. But Denver's got it. I think that they know what they have to do. It was about executing. They didn't do it in game 4. I think they will do it in game 5.
I think every time you look at these series, and that's one of the reasons they're as long as they are and seasons are as long as they are, is because people eventually sort of hit their averages. If you overplay it, you regress towards the mean. If you're under, by and large, you have to expect they'll bounce back. And I think there's a lot to like about that. When you look at shots at roughly 6 feet and in the last 25 attempts, the Nuggets have made 10.
Yeah,
I get that there is good rim protection there. I also think the Nuggets have been trying to maybe bait a ref into getting a foul shot when they could have been focusing on making the basket. I think that will change too. I think the Nuggets will play better tonight. The question is, how much better will Oklahoma City play tonight? So what do you expect to see from them at home, especially in what I think are the absolutely critical? We talked about the 8 points in the first quarter last game. It's not just the first quarter to me. It's about the first half of the first quarter, first 6 minutes of the game. The Nuggets should probably expect to get punched in the mouth. How are they going to respond?
Yeah, most important thing is to stay attached in these cases. Game 1, they were able to do that. Game 2, they were not. OKC's crowd is going to be crazy. I think everybody here knows that. Everybody understands. OKC, they feel like they have a window to win a championship. They have an opportunity. This is the first time in NBA history or franchise history that they would be able to do that. So their fans are ravenous. They are ready to go, and they're going to be crazy.
This is what they stole Supersonics for.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. But I do think that that building's going to be insane. Denver can do a good thing by trying to take them out of their elements and start the game strong. And if they start the game strong, if you do your work early and then you just stay attached, then you have an opportunity later in the game when you need to, when you see the next opportunity to deliver the finishing blow, to put yourself into a situation, whether it's late third quarter or during the fourth quarter, to make that final run, make that separation. But only way to do that is to do your work early and to have enough energy in order to make it happen at the end.
So what does coming out strong look like? Is that focusing on the perimeter? Is that focusing on taking it to the basket? Is there any particular thing that David Edelman, Nikola Jokić and company would look at and say, hey, here's what we want to accomplish in the first quarter?
I think fast break points, it would be a great way to get that done and try to take the sails out of the OKC
Does that
crowd.
change the way you do defense? Is that looking at hopping?
No, well, you
lanes?
just have to play defense.
Denver.
So OKC does a great job of winning the transition game most of the time, winning the points off of turnovers game. If you're Denver, I think you have to take some chances. I think you have to make some gambles. Christian Brown maybe could leak out into the front court a little bit, trying to make that happen, a dunk or a layup. I think if you're Michael Porter, you should try to do the same thing. But mostly what Denver can do is just turn turnovers into points as often as possible. Usually what OKC does, like they have one of the best transition defenses in the NBA. If you can break that, if you can put yourself into a situation where they have to call some timeouts in the first quarter, then your team is well positioned, I think, to get their breaks when they need to, but also have the energy late to finish very strong.
We've talked a lot about how this team functions around Nikola Jokić, but it is fascinating, something that you've brought up before, that actually if you look at the Jamal Murray minutes with this team when Jamal Murray is on the floor, as opposed to when Jamal Murray has been off the floor, that's actually pretty important to note.
Oh, yeah.
And what is causing that difference, especially when you at least look at Murray's position and say, well, you actually do have a guy in Westbrook who can kind of back up that position. So what is it that Murray's bringing that's kind of maybe getting lost a little bit in the shuffle here?
I think it's the shooting off the dribble. I think that's the most important thing that a guard can do in the modern NBA is shoot off the dribble and be capable at all levels of doing so. Russell Westbrook doesn't want to take those as often. He will. And actually, he's very willing to do so. But in terms of the efficiency, I think that OKC is willing to live with those kinds of shots on a consistent basis. Christian Brown, same thing. Actually, he's even worse because he's not going to shoot off the dribble unless he can absolutely help it. So the most important thing that Denver can get from those guys, you want to get them off the ball and get catch and shoot jumpers when you can. or get back cuts. You want those guys to be finishing at the rim, drawing fouls, doing the things that they were doing. I think Russ, especially in game 1, did that really well. He had like a 10-point first quarter or third quarter, and it really got Denver back into that game. I think that he has the capability to do that, but it's a lot of work in order to make that happen.
Oh, let's talk about the fouls, because obviously when you look at the way the fouls are called, that's one thing. The truth of the matter is, in this series, the Nuggets have actually had more free throws than the Thunder.
Yeah.
The difference in free throws per game between SGA and Jokić is actually only 0.3. And when you look at the person who's got the third most, it's Jamal Murray.
Yep.
So the Nuggets have not been getting the short end of the stick when it comes to the free throws, but at the same time, it's the feeling. And I know a lot of the people out here at number 38 are thinking the same thing when they've watched these games. And this is part of the nature of the smaller guy versus the big guy, right? Yeah. Gilgeous-Alexander and smaller players can throw themselves on the ground and you can believe that they got there. Whereas if you're Nikola Jokić and you're basically a walking mountain, if you can't throw yourself on the ground and dive and flop, because no one's going to believe you got pushed over.
Yeah, everybody like nationally is looking at that and thinking, oh man, why is he doing that? But really, it's to get the same calls that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been getting over the course of the series. And like this last one, I think especially this last game was very notable. He gets the benefit of the doubt in ways that Jokić doesn't, and the and one that he got in the second quarter, and then Jokić not getting the and one on the other end of the floor on the very next play in a very similar
I'm not
situation.
sure either of those have been continuations, really. But
Well, I mean, if one should be, then the other should be. That's sort of how we're dealing with it.
But now we're going to be at home, and look, referees are human.
Yeah,
they do get affected by crowds. They get affected by, if something happens out of the corner of your eye and you watch a body fall and you hear the whole crowd make a noise, your instinct is to blow a whistle.
I think that as long as Tony Brothers is not reffing this one, I think they'll be okay.
It's always a bad thing when you know any referee's name. Any sport, if you know their name, knowing the referee is obviously a bad thing.
Not a great thing.
But when you look at this Nuggets game coming up now here, for me, this is
sayonara.
Not quite do or die. Wow, look at that. All right, looks like Indiana is going to move on and get back to where they were last year, the Eastern Conference Finals,
Miles
more
Turner
than likely against the New York Knicks, assuming they finish off the Jason Tatum-less Boston Celtics. So congratulations to the Pacers. And that means, of course, the Nuggets are coming up quickly. So for the Nuggets, I don't believe if they lose this game tonight that they are done.
No.
But, boy, to me at least, it feels like if they don't get this one, the road becomes very, very, very hard because, again, as we started the show with, that fatigue is cumulative, and you have to expend more when you're behind, whether you're behind in a game or whether you're behind in a series. The Nuggets have less in the tank. I think that's fair. They've had a longer playoff run. They have a shorter bench. That's just the way it is. So how critical is tonight, really?
It's, of course, critical. I think the stat is that for a 2-2 series, the team that wins games 5 wins the series about 80% of the time. And so if you want to have the best odds, that you get it done.
Well, winning is better.
You give yourself 2 options to win the 4th and final game in a game 6 or game 7. Is Denver dead if they lose? No. The way I was framing it to you is that if they lose game 5, well, they have a home game 6, and then they have a game 7 if they get that done, where anything can happen on multiple days of rest. So we'll see what happens. But obviously, if you're Denver, you want to get it done. It's a very pivotal opportunity. You missed out on a great chance in game 4. If you give yourself an opportunity in game 5, I think they get it done.
If we're looking at the end of this first quarter, and you and I are going to watch this, we're talking about it, and I hear something from you going, oh, wow, that's a really good sign. I love it. What are you seeing?
Would be great to get some Michael Porter Jr. points early, but also getting some Jamal Murray threes, getting some Christian Brown threes.
Force that defense.
You want to pull the defense out. But also, hey, let's just get Chet Holmgren with a couple early fouls. Like, let's see if that were to happen. Let's see if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets the offensive foul, arm off, push off.
I wouldn't count on it. But
there's an opportunity there.
Who knows? If you're looking at something where it's going sideways and you're like, the Nuggets are in for one of those nights, maybe, what does that look like?
If the OKC crowd is just absolutely ridiculously loud off of a massive dunk in transition, and then Denver gives up a turnover and the same transition play happens. Like when Denver lets the transition point spiral, that's where their they get dejected. That's where they get demoralized. It's a very demoralizing feeling when a team is just running at you over and over. So OKC has the capability to do that. Do the Nuggets have the capability to hold serve, to stay calm, to stay composed in those situations? If they are turning the ball over, that's a problem.
We haven't had a chance to talk about David Adelman, of course, the Nuggets interim head coach. One of the things that the players, after the surprise firing of Michael Malone with only a handful of games left, the idea that you'd heard from a bunch of different players was calm, calm. That was the word I noted that most of the players talked about.
It's not a yeller.
Right. No. And maybe it's just as simple as in Malone's case and Adelman's case, and obviously the two coach rather similarly. Adelman has been the primary assistant for 7 years now, more or less, for Michael Malone.
He's been around.
It feels as if it's just a tweak, right? Because this team kind of does know what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it. And they don't need necessarily the coach to holler at them, let them know what they did wrong. They need sort of the kind of coach that, oversimplifying, it's like, hey, guys, we got this. We're good. Relax. Take a deep breath.
Oh, something that he said earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, that he just has to remind them that they're the Denver Nuggets, that they won a championship already.
With this core,
group
right.
won a title. So it's sometimes it gets lost when you're running into adversity, when you have to be reminded, hey, we are actually really good. We did this before. We have more experience than they do. That's the general kind of message that he should be putting forward. And then as calmly and as reasonably as he can, tell them, hey, let's get some easy points now, guys. Let's not try to force up anything too crazy here. But the other thing is just worrying about the things you can control, not worrying about the referees, doing what it takes, like with the physicality, with the athleticism, with the defensive execution, things like that. If he can push forward that message and they execute, I think they're going to win. Yeah,
I think that's a valuable thing to keep in mind. And as we've seen in the series, Nikola Jokić has been frustrated, and he's done his bit to try to get the referees to buy in. But I would personally feel more comfortable if he ignored them entirely. I know he won't. Yeah. But in this case, don't worry about that. They're going to call what they're going to call. Go do your game. Make them stop you. I think that's something that when Jokić has sometimes gotten himself in that mindset, it's been tricky to get himself out of it. And I think in this series, he's been stuck there a little.
You can't fight on multiple fronts, man.
Right.
That's the most important thing is just to give all of your focus to the OKC Thunder.
The Thunder are hard enough. Don't worry about the Zebras.
Exactly. You want to give yourself as much of a choice, as much of a chance as possible. So, look, we will see what happens. But, hey, I think it looks like we're about to come up here on the tip. What's your prediction? What's your final prediction for what happens?
Well, I might be speaking with my heart more than my head, but I do think that we're going to have one of those great Nikola Jokić games. I think this is going to be the kind of performance we're going to see. Maybe it's another, I don't know. I can't ever predict 40 and 22 because that's ridiculous.
I could predict 30-20-10.
I can't see that. Yeah. And I do think you're going to see a focused game. I think you're going to see a better shooting game. I think a little bit of rest and adjustment will be fine. I want to see the rest of the team go out there and run with him. We will find out. Of course, want to keep in mind for everybody out here today, by the way, thanks for joining us. Take care of your bartenders. They're the ones taking care of you. Also want to make sure that if you catch this QR code up here, give it a scan. We have prizes going throughout the night, some pretty cool ones that our friend Nate Lundy will come and tell you about as well in just a little bit. But go ahead and sign up right there and see if you can win yourself some of those prizes. We're looking forward to spending the evening with you and hopefully getting the Nuggets win. So I'm gonna say it. It's probably more heart than head.
No,
I think they get it done, and then I will just hold on tight till Game 6.
105-102, Nuggets win. Let's go to Game 6 and get it done there.
Okay, 105-102. He is Ryan Blackburn. Make sure you subscribe to the Pick, Axe, and Roll podcast, the best and most detailed Nuggets podcast you can get. You can also get that right on YouTube, where a lot of you are watching this right now as well. Thank you for all of that. We appreciate all of it. But we're going to go ahead and hand it off to the broadcast here, the Nuggets and the Thunder. See a lot of Nuggets fans out here. Let's see if we can do a little something to get them to that victory in Game 5. For all of us at My Life Sports, looking forward to spending the night. Spend that QR code. Go Nuggets.